what was that figure there?
965.
These are the donor funds. This is the amount of the library tax dollars that are collected from Atherton properties that go to the county, and the county then takes out direct and indirect costs associated with the Atherton library. The net of this year, we had $960,000 more in tax revenues than were the direct and indirect costs of the library. Now that's all
The non-department
Prop 13 and that sort of thing. The thing I want to point out though is there's been a recent change by the county library system that says they no longer, beginning this next fiscal year, will remit these donor funds to the town's books. They want to keep them at the county. Therefore, as we build a library, this reserve, the library costs will come out of the reserve figure here.
Right.
And it won't be reimbursed in the future by other donor funds unless that policy is changed again.
Right.
Well, how
And it might
do they have the power to do that? Was
Because
that done by a
it's
referendum or
done
something?
by a joint powers authority comprised of 12 agencies. We're one of them. And our representative voted to make that change along with all the rest of them. Yeah, they had their rationale and so forth, but this is one battle I've been fighting for.
But it costs us $1 million.
Well, it just won't be on our books.
Well,
But
do
I
we have
think-
the right to spend it?
No, we don't have the right to spend it today unless they also agree to spend the donor funds for whatever we want to spend it on. So, anyway, that's another whole.
But we do have the right to go get the money if we have
No,
a
we
project that
don't.
they approve.
No. But they would have to approve the project, and they would provide the funds once we run out of funds.
Yeah.
But that's another whole topic, I just wanted to raise it as.
Well, no, it's a good thing you did, because I appreciate it.
Emerging.
Yeah.
And this 350,000, is that an overhead cost?
Yes, and the 350,000, that was for, it's the library services, 156,000 was for the environmental consulting that we did. It's part of the whole project of building the library. 80,000 was for architectural services, 55,000 was the contract planner to do
So
that
this is
portion.
not recurring work, this is.
No, that was just, and it was only because at that time that was ramped up.
It's
That
not
was
the
what was
total
going
bill
on.
either. I mean, you had charges this year too.
Yeah. Yeah, so.
Do we have revenue this year to pay it?
Yes.
We
Yes.
We're receiving funds for one more year,
Mhm.
but we do have the $6 million
Yeah.
in reserve.
Right, but we won't get any more revenues in
After this year.
after this year. 13, okay.
So, yeah, they have 6.2 million of that. So if we just go to the ending fund balances on page 18 on the bottom, you look to the right. So the total fund balance is 16.8 million. Of that, 6.2 million is the general fund, 875,000 is the special tax revenue fund, 6.2 million, as was mentioned, is the library fund, 804,000 is a road construction fund, which we won't be getting any more money, and you can see we haven't. This is what we're using for capital projects. We're going to deplete this fund. Going
This is
forward.
the impact fee?
Yes, sir. And that's what we, like the impact fees, the Measure A, M, and the special tax revenue funds, we usually, what we do is for big projects, or in most cities, what they do is they pool multiple transportation funding to help pay for projects, and that's what we do in our capital improvement project, is use multiple funds for this. Our facility construction is 2 million, and then our other governmental, which is the Measure A, our COPS grant, gas tax.
So what is this
628.
construction capital project fund?
That was that's the fund for the Civic Center.
It's a reserve that is built up through fees for building permits that is available for the building department's portion of the new center.
The building department's portion.
Yeah.
And of that amount, of the 2 million, 1.8 million is reserved for the building department. That's which is part of the capital, which is this whole construction project.
Looks like we don't fund that anymore either.
No, we stopped. This year, we didn't put anything towards it this year. With that being said, I just wanted to kind of go over the general fund portion and see how we've done a big improvement over last year. And then probably, for time, when I turn it over to Mr. Wong to maybe, to kind of go through the audit and his findings.
I think we should do that before
Yeah.
we lose everything.
Yeah, exactly.
One question, why does it take us so long to get the financial report put together?
No, I think it was just this was just a special year in timing and getting, the presentation together, and the RDA issues, but it was my, timing. February, we couldn't do
So it'll
it.
be sooner next year?
Oh, yeah, definitely.
Okay.
My goal is usually by, they were completed and done by, we get them done by December. And that's our goal, is October, November. That way by December, it's presented to both the committees. So, yeah.
All right, Mr. Wong, you're on.
Okay, so,
Appreciate your patience.
okay.
Sorry, Mark.
Totally okay. So I'm here basically as auditor to convey the results of the audit. So basically, we were out here in interim, so we would do an interim audit where we test mostly internal control. And so we're out here in total 1 week, sometime in April or May. And then in October, we were out here for 2 weeks, out in the field. And so, basically this year, if you just on the basic financial statements itself, for the basic financial statements, basically on page one of the basic financial statements, it's a clean opinion, basically unqualified clean opinion, and to say that it's as of June 30, it's fairly stated.
How
All
many
the
years
balances.
now have had clean opinions?
This
We
is
started the audit committee many years ago, they couldn't even balance the bank account,
Really?
really.
Wow.
so, yep. So, okay. So, and it's a clean opinion, and I think that's it. And I think Robert has already gone through the basic financial statements. And the other highlight that I wanted to highlight was OPEC, and we talked about it. And I think the other report that we issued is this so-called Memorandum on Internal Control and Required Communications. So basically that conveys the results of our audit.
And what's your bottom line on the internal controls?
So basically, on our internal control, as of last year of June 30, there's no material weaknesses, there's no significant deficiencies.
Segregation of duties?
Segregation duties, because the document is small, so it's kind of hard to have strict segregation duties. However, we tested, like journal entries. If there's no segregation duties, we always make sure that if it's one person that does more than one duties, that there is an additional layer of review by the
Is there any
different.
rotation by staff of duties during the year?
Mhm. Well, the way it works is like the bank statements, for instance, get reconciled monthly, and I don't reconcile them, but I review them. So there's the internal control.
Who does the original?
My senior accountant, June, he does the reconciling of
What
them.
else do they do besides, what does he do besides that with the banks?
He oversees the payroll, verifying the payroll's done. He does the day-to-day general ledger reconciliation with the accounting
Do you just
technician.
initiate transactions though, or write the checks, or?
No, the AP gets entered by the accounting technician. I oversee the accounts payable register. I verify, I go through those. I sign off, I commit it, then she goes and she takes that batch and she creates the checks.
We see
Then I go and I sign them.
so many headlines about collusion between two employees now
Yeah.
in many of these agencies.
Right.
Yeah.
No, and then what the good thing about it too is on the signatures, it requires 2 signatures. So I sign the checks, and what's included with the checks is the invoices, the actual invoices and the register. So once I sign them, I give those to the city manager, so he signs them. So there's a double
And then you give him what? You give him the detail?
Yes, I give everything that I see, I give to him, and he sees as well. So there's the control right there too. So there isn't any collusion. I'm not the one that creates the checks or prints them. I just sign them and verify that, yes, these are okay to pay, match them up to the invoices, verify the invoices are real invoices, and then the city manager is the final oversees.
Do you do anything on a test basis on that process?
Yes, we do, so, correct.
I think he has a notation on page 5 that you needed to implement the Springbok HR module, and that might improve the process, because you're talking about who runs payroll and prints payroll checks, and also adjust the employee database information, so you don't have that implemented yet.
Correct. I think typically for payroll, we would prefer the ideal segregation is that one person who enters the payroll database will be separate from the person who does payroll itself. However, I think in this case, that would be the spring in this recommendation. But I think last year, before Robert, it was Deborah Ocker, and in discussing with her, I think they were thinking about it, but she said that she indicated that the additional layer would have the finance director. After it has been run, the finance director will go in, either do a periodic, either monthly, quarterly, or random audit, going to look at when you run. There's a report called payroll edit changes report. So they will run it, and if there are any changes in, let's say, pay rate, or so the finance director would go in and would make sure that the rates are correct. Yeah. So I think that's the additional review there.
And we currently do that because to verify like the payroll at the end of every month, we print that report, and I go and I verify that if it tells you if there was changes. And whenever there's a change within a payroll, whether it's a new employee or a change in payroll rate, that's in that payroll register, and I sign that. Then I go and that happens every payroll. Then at the end of every month, we run that report again. It's a report for the whole month, and I verify that and I sign off on that. And so that's another checks and balances.
Does that
Due to
include
the-
overtime?
Yes. Well, over time, that gets verified, because I verify payroll as well. They input the payroll, they get it done, I go and I verify that, I go through the detail that the payroll matches what is
No, what
turned
I'm
in.
getting at, it seems like that's a big area for potential fraud. It also apparently on the police side is a big issue because, as Whitmer pointed out, our expenses are, while they're under budget, we're understaffed, so
Yeah.
we'll burn a lot of overtime
Right.
somewhere.
No, and that one's in communication with the PD management and myself, but they verify, there's a supervisor that verifies the payroll weekly to verify that was their time. And so that gets verified, and when it comes to us, as long as they have signed off on it,
Who they?
we know the supervisor, it's either the chief
Lieutenant or the
lieutenant.
captain or
Mhm.
both?
The lieutenant, either one, the lieutenant or the chief will sign off on it and verify that that's correct. Because they have the schedule, they verify that they worked, and yes, if it was overtime. And we make sure to, on the overtime too, we communicate with them on the correct.
That's one thing we
correction
don't
of
see
overtime.
is any kind of applauding of overtime hours.
Mhm. And I've been, Chief and I've been talking about overtime, and I think it's just been a sensitive issue with staffing wise, and that's something that we need to
But I
verify.
think it'd be good to condition us in terms of what's happening with overtime hours, in
Mhm.
terms of the.
Of staffing, like, this is the overtime for the month, why?
Well, and have some trend to compare to, yeah.
Do you have that? Is that, you told me that you have a whole bunch of data that this explodes to. Do you have overtime?
Yeah, you can get you
Yeah,
the detail.
part of that would be,
Do you have the ability to bill for Obama's extra overtime?
no.
No, but because of what recently took place,
Right.
Chief and I are gonna be, getting together and coordinating that also, and then the public works portions, if there was any, costs, get that together, and we were gonna create and send an invoice and see what happens.
It's not gonna do any good there. What
We tried it before.
Yeah. What we're thinking about is maybe more of a general thing, that where it's an extraordinary event that requires to have the extra services, police services, but you can't just say, you know, it's, and then have the homeowner be responsible for it. The Washington DC is not gonna pay any of this. They've denied every town.
Well, we'll just close off the runway.
Yeah.
They want to go someplace else.
We have an ordinance against helicopters landing, but that is it.
They, I mean, the costs are staggering and none of it's reimbursed.
No,
No, which we've always said needs to be petitioned, because
Yeah.
we spent like.
It's only for
$6,000
fundraising.
last year.
Clinton did a deal at my neighbor's, and, you know, we had snipers in the trees and,
yeah,
and they ran communication cables. The preparation took 2 weeks. I didn't think at the time who was paying for it, but I assumed,
we're only paying, I think, for our own time on the thing. I don't think we're,
Your own place.
you know, I don't think we're being charged for any other outside services.
No, it's just whatever we provide the chief, maybe, you know, them working in communication with them, whether if it's verifying, you know, certain streets are cordoned off or whatever, that's our time
So
basically.
we're not collecting any of that money, but if we had a broader kind of approach on this thing, that for any extraordinary event required to have extra police services and overtime and so forth, that
And we should get,
the homeowner or whoever's responsible, yeah, should get a bill.
Sorry, back to the Spring Book and the HR thing that you're recommending, that will give you that segregation of duties, if
Yeah.
that was implemented.
No,
And
I-
as far as why isn't it implemented, and are we paying a maintenance fee just to have it?
it's part of a module, an additional module that we have to purchase.
But are we paying a maintenance fee for it?
We have already purchased it, right? You just haven't implemented
I
yes
think-
and yes.
it. And so you're paying a maintenance fee for ownership of it.
I think it's a total portion, it's not like segregated, like this is HR's, but it's just the maintenance of everything,
Okay.
yeah.
Good point.
You're paying a maintenance fee on something you haven't implemented yet, so.
That should have
Because,
been-
yeah, from my conversation with the previous finance director, it was during a time, I think, they, because of the staff layoff, they just,
Yeah,
they-
change
they-
the finance
correct,
managers,
correct,
and
finance
that's a big
managers,
factor
all that,
here.
correct.
that,
And
for
so-
three.
right, she decided that during that time, it's not
She-
cost effective.
She left, I think, in the middle of going to make that change.
Mhm.
But
So,
And we have that as one of our goals to get done. You know, it'll get done, it's just us with
That's
staffing,
important.
with, you know, issues that come, budgets coming up, other, you
So
know.
who's the driver on that module? Is it Teresa? Is that who?
It's gonna be both, me and Teresa, because,
Let's get it on the manager's project report. I don't think it's on the project report.
on the goals and project, I thought I think it was like I think it might be a long-term, not a short-term,
Let's-
or
let's
midterm.
talk about
Yes, sir.
that then,
Mhm.
yeah.
Because beyond just greater efficiency, it's gonna have things in there that legally and
Yeah, well, I agree with you
HR law,
100%,
that if they don't have certain notifications done in
Yeah.
a certain way, you could have a
You're
future
absolutely right.
lawsuit or liability, and it's important to have those fully implemented, I think, in my opinion.
We've also had some errors, as I recall, in calculation of some of the taxes that have come to service the past year and so forth. I don't know if that'd be caught by the module like this or not.
Is that like, you mean like payroll taxes?
Well, I've forgotten what the details
Okay.
were now, but city clerk was telling me about it one
Okay.
time.
Now, what about, let's go through this briefly, because we didn't have it in advance. On that first page of recommendations, are we doing that, or are you getting the
We have the comments.
recommended RFP for over 15,000 or more?
Yes, right.
should go to the city council.
Correct.
Is that happening?
Yeah, so because if you look at the bottom,
Oh,
at bottom page 3, that's the current status, so prepared by management, basically Robert provided us
Management.
the
and
status.
And you're doing it?
Yes.
Maximum vacation accrual, recommendation, township make sure all places of the reason. Process.
And this item, this current status is actually reflected on the financial statements. On the financial statements, on page 34, the footnote, you can actually see that the amount of liability reduced significantly
On the compensated
on
absences.
the compensated
Yeah.
absences.
So wait a minute, where are you?
Well, on the same, on the middle page of page 4, on the current status,
Yeah.
it has changed, and
On the vacations.
right, because we did have all those employees that left, that had vacations, so those accruals are
Are
decreased.
we still accruing if people don't take it?
We have a cap on that.
We have caps.
Use
What's
it
the cap?
use it or lose it.
No, I think it's 240 for miscellaneous, and I think PD's like at 7 or 5. I'll
Five what?
update you, 500 hours. I'll verify the caps on
What
that.
happens if they get to the cap, they don't get it?
They, I think in the MOU, one of the MOUs, I think they can do so many hours of cash out, I think it's
So the hours what?
cash out 40 hours, or they gotta take it. And sometimes, because if staffing or doesn't allow for them to take the time off, then there's the caveat is they could do the cash out. But that has to follow through the protocols with
There'll
management.
be no accrual. over
Yeah,
cash.
once you pass once you hit the max, you won't accrue anymore. And so what happens, and that's what behooves employees, is to make sure that they don't get to that cap. So one, they wanna use their vacation, because when they're at their max, yeah, you're right, they're not accruing.
And that's only in effect for the miscellaneous employees at this point in time, or is it in effect for police too?
I think police has their own as well. And I'll pull those,
I can look, I
MOUs.
have.
What do you have a copy
Contract.
Well, it had to do with when they were
of? Contract.
doing the new salary benefit, and it got passed and then unpassed and then passed in a corrected version, it's in there.
All right, on the deposit closeout,
Yeah, we're, on that one, it's a process that, we were getting deposits for buildings, and I think one of the issues too is sometimes the deposits, we return the deposits once the project is
The
completed.
record keeping was
verified.
lousy.
You're right, and so now I have my staff reconciling that, with the building department, so, so it won't be an issue.
And they have their own system now too.
Right, their CRW,
Yeah.
and CRW feeds into Springbrook, and then we reconcile to make
What's
sure.
incredible about the hand work was done for many years.
Yeah, so that's something that we are definitely fixing and
are you satisfied with that?
maintaining with it.
Mr. Wu?
Correct, yeah.
Okay. Do you have any other comments that you want to share with us?
I think that's on, basically, and on page 7 is our required communications. Those elements that we're required to communicate to the town council. So basically, there are no difficulties for the audit. So basically, there's no significant items there. So
So no disputes between you and management. you know.
correct.
Robert, why don't you excuse yourself a minute?
Okay.